When we went down into the basement, there was New Kids on the Block and like Led Zeppelin spray painted all over the walls, and you're like, okay, why?
Yeah, I'm like, did you do this, Tyler? No? Okay. Ready to get started?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for tuning in again. This is the let's start again. This is Spencer. I'm gonna just keep
Starting
that in.
off strong. There you go.
Yeah, this is Spencer from Scoped, and this is the Scoped Exposure podcast. Just having an off day, but super excited to sit down here with my good buddy Tyler from the band PLEAD. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Saturday, it's the holidays. I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah, I'm very much rather be inside and not have to see the busyness of people outside fighting for parking stalls and last minute gifts.
Oh yeah, it was not a fun time trying to find parking down here, as you could tell by me being fashionably late. But I mean, we ended up getting something and making it, but it's definitely rough out there.
Yeah, and maybe I want to explore some of those things because before we started recording on the podcast, like if this is your first time seeing an episode in this space, this is actually shot in the Calgary Public Library that you were mentioning that you had worked on earlier. But before we get into that, maybe you can just do a little hardcore origin story, introduce yourself a little bit more properly than I did earlier.
Absolutely. I've watched the other podcast, so I knew that was coming.
Oh, a true fan.
Yeah. I've, been working with you for a while, so I was like, yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking out these podcasts. But anyways, my hardcore origin story is pretty nothing crazy. It was actually, ironically enough, the Cole, not Cole Hadley, but Cole the God episode.
Yeah.
And as he was explaining his whole lineup, I was like, every single one of these bands are one of the bands that got me into hardcore in the beginning. So I thought that was kind of funny. I think...
And those bands were, just so we can give context for people.
Born for Battle, Horizons, Gravemaker, and Act Fast. Those were the bands that being a small kid in high school, middle school down in Lethbridge, when those bands came through or were playing Calgary, we would make the runs up or, go to every show that came through a small little town like Lethbridge. But I think the first show that I went to that really got me into hardcore was Born for Battle. My cousin I was into AFI and kind of just getting into the heavier stuff versus Billy Talent and Green Day and things like that. And he brought me to a Born for Battle show, and I was just, young kid. It just blew my mind seeing what an actual small venue hardcore show was. And then I took a little bit of a break, didn't go to every show. I was young, only went with my older cousin. Then he ended up getting more into the hip hop rap scene, and I kind of stayed and continued to go to hardcore shows and was just go by myself, and then eventually made friends with the people in the Lethbridge hardcore scene. It's a small community, but it was definitely tight. We all hung out. It was fun. And then every time that there was a good show up in Calgary, Edmonton, we would definitely make the run. But That's kind of my hardcore origin story, was just being young, hanging out with my older cousin who was like, you like somewhat heavy music? Let me show you the good stuff.
Yeah.
And with that, I was just like, this is it. I liked a little bit of heavy death metal too and stuff, things like that. But no, when I landed in hardcore, I was like, that is the nice, safe, fun space that I like. It's not boring or anything like that.
Yeah, and there's definitely a curve, you were saying, same thing for me. It was hey, my brother's playing this show, do you want to come? And then being exposed to that, I can attest that I don't think he's gonna watch or listen to this, nor would he care if I called him out for not going to hardcore shows anymore. But
everybody gets old.
Yeah, that's true. But he wasn't into hardcore really at all. It was just more my brother's playing. So yeah, I went to that show. That was the Means' last Winnipeg show, and I was just I don't know, just kind of the girl from high school just kind of fell in love, and I'm just whoa, what is this? And then slowly over time just got to that place where it's I can just go to this show tonight and I know I'm going to run into someone that I know and that I can talk to, or I'm just going to see the bands that I like, and it just goes from there. But maybe to add a little bit more like current context, can you tell me the band that you're currently playing in?
Yep. So I currently play bass in the Calgary band here, PLEAD. We've worked a lot with Scoped since the beginning. We released and came out and announced everything in February, late February, early March this year. So we're a relatively new band, and for being as relatively new as we are, we've done quite a bit, I'd say, in the last few months.
Yeah, and it's very rare to be able to like truly document a band's like journey from the very bare bones to like, you know, as you establish yourselves more. I can't say that we have every single PLEAD set out on the internet.
No, you missed a few, but it's okay. Those ones, you didn't miss the important ones. And I do agree. It's been funny to watch, like, from the beginning to the most recent, the like change in how people move and enjoy the music, and it's been cool to watch.
Yeah, and maybe can you give a little bit of like history as far as like connecting with some of those guys, because that's always a interesting thing for me. Is, you know, it's one thing to see bands with certain members form other bands with other members of bands, so it becomes like like all these bands. Like the best example I can think of is like Fuse, which has members of Enemies, Trench.
Great band too.
Yeah, great band. But I also like being able to see like a new band kind of come up in the hardcore scene that has a bunch of new fresh faces that at least I haven't seen. So yeah, give me a little bit of context about how the band formed, what you guys wanted to do, and how you kind of like mapped out that plan to kind of hit it hard this year.
Yeah, like the long story about how I met all of those, that goes through like 4 or 5 bands, which is crazy. But the main basics of it was I had a mutual friend who we were going to start something with, and then he ended up joining this like metalcore, deathcore band. And I had been playing in another local like crossover band called Sick Ritual. They don't really play a whole lot of hardcore shows and stuff, but they are like pretty sweet crossover and thrash stuff. So I was playing in that band, and then this one friend that was like, hey, I joined this band. The first day that he went to go jam with them, I get a message being like, my bass player quit. I need a bass player. And I was like, fuck. Well, now I need a 5-string bass, and I'm, you know, like I prefer the hardcore and the crossover and the thrash, but I don't mind some of this, and it'll be fun. And so I went, and literally the first jam, learned 2 of their songs, was good to go, and Lane, who is the drummer of that band and the drummer of PLEAD, was just like, so you're in, right? I was like, are you like, was this not like an audition? Like, there's just one jam? You're going to be like, yeah, you're in.
Yeah.
He hates finding new members, so it made sense.
Yeah.
So basically,
let me just lock down this person while I have them in the room.
Yeah. He was just like, so you're going to come back, right? Like, you're in? I was amazed. I was like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, sure, fuck it. Like, let's go. Yeah. This is, like, you guys are nice. This is fun. Kevin, the other guitarist, it's non-PLEAD. He's got cute dogs, so I get to hang out with dogs once a week. Like, I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
So once in that band, we played a few shows, and we played a show with Marcus's band. That's the vocalist of PLEAD. And through playing that show, I didn't really talk to Marcus. We just kind of said, hi, whatever. We're playing the same show. You're opening. Cool. I didn't like that band at all, but I didn't want to tell him then.
I actually didn't know that Marcus played in a band before PLEAD.
It's true. Yeah, he played in a band called...
It's so under the rug.
Yeah, Lacuna, and they just... I wasn't sure what he was doing in that band.
Sure.
And I don't think
was he
doing
did vocals in that band?
Yes. And I don't think he did either, but I think he was just young, wanted to be in a band. Yeah. It was like a good learning experience.
Oh yeah. Every first 3 bands usually are like the growing pains of figuring out how to write songs and play live shows.
Exactly. And you got to start somewhere. But anyways, so From the Wolves, that was the band that I joined, was a 5-piece, and it started turning more tech death than we wanted. Like, personally, like the 3 members that are in PLEAD now, we didn't really want to do the tech death that this band was leaning towards, and through trying to work out tours and doing things, like, there wasn't a full group like agreeance on where they wanted to go, because members didn't want to tour or they didn't want to put the work in, and other members had too high hopes and stuff. And so we would end up writing in two different groups, writing two completely different songs, and then being like, no, we should do this song. No, we should do this song.
Oh.
And so with that, I was living with Lane at the time. And basically, I had been like, let's start a hardcore band. Come on, like poking him, like, let's do it.
Let's jump off this shit.
So he thought about it, and then about, I don't know, probably a month after me just poking and prying, he comes home after we had some stupid argument on the group chat, and he was just like, fuck it, yeah, let's go. Let's start a hardcore band. And then within, I think, a month of starting PLEAD, we were like, kind of just leaning towards things. It was just me and Lane writing. And then we kind of knew that From the Wolves was going to be done. So we reached out to John, and he was like, I didn't think he was going to do it. I didn't think he wanted to break up From the Wolves because that was his baby. But he was all for it. We brought him in. And then after about a week of writing, or a week or two of writing, we brought Marcus in. Well, I sent him a message. I was like, hey, do you know any vocalists that want to play in a band? Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Like,
you.
Yeah. But I already knew he was in a band, and his reply was literally just like, yeah, me. So
yeah,
with Lane being the way that he was, and me also being like, Marcus likes Blistered, so that's cool. Let's get him in. Basically, we had written the EP almost completely by the time he came in, and he just put vocals to it, and we were like, yeah, that works. He's a good kid, puts the effort in.
Yeah, definitely the youngest of
yes.
of the guys in the band.
And then with that, we were out of From the Wolves. We worked really hard. We recorded that music video.
Yeah.
And then we announced PLEAD.
And then let's jump off of that. So like, you hit me up, and you kind of were the first band to actually give me a chance, because I think a lot of people only knew me for like recording like live hardcore sets, and that they thought maybe that was the only thing I could do. And I really wanted to push my freelance more on the music side and wanted to do more music videos. So when, I can't remember if I hit you up or you hit me up, and then
I think I might have asked you like
right.
where to go, and then you were like, well, I could do that.
Yeah.
And so we we talked about it, and we agreed that we were going to try and keep everything local.
Yeah.
Like support our friends, support local. So we used local photographers, we used local artists for our EP album work. Local is in like Alberta, Western Canada.
Yeah.
Like the person that draws all our art is in Edmonton. The person that takes our photos, all the promo photos are in Calgary. And then we were like, well, now we're missing like the video element.
Yeah.
And the person that my other bands had worked were just busy, and I didn't really want to work with them. That was more my other bandmates' decision. So I was like, oh, well, Spencer's a dude, so let's hit him up and see what he can do.
Yeah. And is that something, I want to explore the music video stuff, but is that something that even, that was back almost a year ago now, have you done other things that have kind of kept that like local flavor? Because that's definitely like a big thing for me, even outside of hardcore, is like I love supporting like small and local businesses and being able to see those people, grow, whether that's like someone making like ceramics or tea or whatever. So yeah, I'm just curious if there's been other things that you've done maybe more recently that have that same vibe.
Absolutely. No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we've kept everything local so far within anybody that's printed shirts, done art, done promos, like for some, big things coming. Like we still use locals, we used the homies, and it's all coming together right now. But I don't think we have gone anything out of Western Canada, let alone Alberta.
Do you think it's like super important to kind of keep that, close? Because I've talked with other people about it, and they've, argued where it's like, well, I'm a big fan of this artist and I want my album to have this type of artwork, and they're only in the States or in Australia or, wherever it is. And I definitely think that, there's certain things where, like if you can't get it here, like, and you really want it, and it's that important to you, then, it's not the end of the world. But what's your take on that? I'm curious.
Honestly, there's like when you're working with artists and people that bring content or do services, you got to be able to compromise and work it out. But like if you're dead set on somebody in like that is in Brazil that does this crazy art that you guys really want, like I don't see a problem with that.
Right.
But I do definitely think that like supporting your friends and supporting local people and keeping that scene going and keeping them motivated too. Like if you might have a guy that's like, oh man, I want to take photos for bands that I haven't been able to in a while, or I haven't done any of these artwork, and you hit him up, he's going to be like super stoked, or she might be super excited and put in all this effort, and you're going to get something that you didn't even expect. And that's what I've found with almost everything we've done so far with working with our local friends.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, giving, a lot of people, when I first started filming shows, like, they could have just been like, no, I don't want you to film my band. And, we might not even be here doing this podcast, right? Like, because a lot of people gave me a shot to kind of, explore these talents, and then it just has grown into this. So yeah, definitely feel like, supporting the homies and, giving people a chance is super important. But jumping back to the music video that we did, if anyone who hasn't watched it, it's, and this is the director speaking, so you can just correct me if you're like, actually, sure. Yeah. But we shot it at a worn down house that's on your grandparents' acreage.
Yeah, more like a full blown farm there, like way out in old fields where you can't even see a city anywhere near. But it's definitely like an old worn down house on grandparents' farm, just like out of nowhere.
So for I know the story of how you were like, oh, this is a no brainer that we should shoot a video in this house, but maybe you tell your behind the scenes of it, and maybe I can even add some things onto that from
absolutely. Well, it's like I've always been pretty close with my family and stuff, and so every like Christmas, Easter, whatever, we would drive out to Lomond there, which is the small town. It's pretty much a ghost town now, but we would go out to the farm, and there was always that house and all the stories that the family would tell. Like, yeah, of course, it's probably not true about the hauntedness and how our uncle would do all of that. But anyways, when after all of his ghost stories, nobody wanted the house because they were afraid to be spooked. Spooked. I mean, friendly ghosts, but nobody wanted the house, so it just kind of like went to shit and got destroyed. Nature took over, and then they built other ranches. Family moved to cities like Lethbridge, where I ended up, and so I was terrified of going in that house when I was growing up because of the stories and being a kid. And then I finally did when I was like around, 11 or 12, after years of not going near it, and I was just like, oh, this is cool, actually. Like, I like this feel. And then as years have gone by, it just kind of got worse and more decrepit and more interesting. Hence all like the B grade, like the B shots in the music video of all the cool things around.
Yeah. I think when we were like figuring things out, it's like, okay, we want live shots and we want spooky shots. Yeah. And then we just kind of interspliced everything. And
I feel like it was like a perfect mix of the two. Like, was way past what I expected, which, I mean, everybody was happy with. And so, when we were talking about how we're going to promo this band release, early on I had brought up, like, what if we dropped a music video? Because, like, our old band, we did a lyric video, which is, it's a lyric video, but it did really well. And I was like, imagine how well a music video would do. And so after we had chose a song and done the EP and got it all back, we were like, well, I think we could, drop the money and do it. And it was honestly one of the best decisions we made as like a beginning band. And Spencer was just like, yeah, here's my prices and wage. And we were like, oh, that's absolutely doable.
Yeah. I think it was like a perfect recipe. We recorded it in January, if I'm remembering.
It was cold,
correct. Yeah. It was very cold. I did a smart thing of buying those heat warmer or hand warmers.
The pocket warmer packs. You were the only one smart enough to bring some.
I feel like it would have gone a lot poorly if I didn't, because I think I got some extras for people, and because I was throwing them in my shoes, because we were just like,
I think it was like around -12, -15 range.
Yeah, which is like way better than most January Canadian days.
True.
But yeah, we were. I don't know. I always find this funny thing where like I'm the worst for like planning, like attire wise. Like I had a pair of boots last winter; those broke, so I've just been like rocking just like the authentics and doubling up on socks and long underwear, and it's still like not. It's borderline passable as far as trying to keep warm. So I felt like we kind of really went against the grain on the weather side. But granted, it could have been a lot worse.
That's true. And like, it was probably worse for you because all you had to do was stand there with a camera. Luckily, us moving, we were able to take off our coats and be somewhat warm. But
well, yeah, maybe the moving thing is one thing, but like, you don't want to be like, I've seen those music videos where bands are like rocking out in their like parka jackets.
That's true. That's
like,
true.
Like, oh, it's actually like -30 degrees or something, and there's tons of snow. But from a director's or a music video consumer standpoint, like the more like insane the shoot is, the better it looks on film, because there's so many people that will, like the cliche, especially for like metal bands, is go in the woods in the middle of the summer and shoot something. But when you're
just straight up black metal.
Yeah. But when you're doing something a little bit more like thought out, I'm trying to think of some music videos, that are a little bit out there. Not even from a sense of like the story or the elements, but more so from the performance aspect.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, we took a lot of influence from some like Harm's Way and Vane music videos,
right?
And kind of wanted to make it like a not so spastic, like crazy intense thing. And but those are definitely some good videos and stuff. That I kind of understand what you're telling, like the difference between actions and movements and stuff.
Yeah, and so one that came to mind just then was I think the first time I heard of the band Eternal Sleep from Philadelphia, they had a music video where they're in like a worn down like refinery, and everything is rusted over, and it just fit that element of the band with like a very HM2 like metallic hardcore kind of sound. So but I was like, oh, this place looks wicked. Like, how do they get a permit, and if they didn't, how do they pull that together? So that's always interesting. Because I also do remember a couple people hit me up after that music video went out, like,
good.
Hey, where is that? Could we shoot a music video there? I'm like, I think it's like exclusive to the PLEAD gang. So
I wouldn't say it's exclusive, but I mean, if you can find it on the back road that it's on, like, just go ahead. Nobody's gonna stop you. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough one to find.
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
I could just imagine people like looking.
It's true. I mean, other people have found it. When we went down into the basement, there was New Kids on the Block and like Led Zeppelin spray painted all over the walls, and you're like, okay, why?
Yeah, I'm like, did you do this, Tyler? No, okay.
Thought it'd be cool for the video. Come on.
Yeah, and maybe you can. I am curious too, because I asked Don on the. I'm not sure how deep in the podcast content you're in, but when I asked him about music videos overall, he because they shot a music video, but it was purely just live performance, and he was like, yeah, we're not going to do like anything story or acting wise. Do you think PLEAD would ever do something on that level, or do you think that hardcore bands can do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, I find if you can get a good video with like a story behind it, I'm super down with that. But the problem is, like, when you're going for like a story-driven music video, you gotta put the production value in, or it's gonna look terrible.
Right.
So when we were doing it, we were like, we could do like a little bit of story elements, but then we're like, we don't want to overcomplicate this for a first release.
Yeah.
So now that PLEAD has some music out there, we've been doing a few more things, getting a little bit more following. We have, more things to work with. I don't see it being out of the question.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what is in the future for PLEAD.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, I'm thinking of, really heavy bands that like their music and art are like perfectly in sync. So like a band like Code Orange, like all their music videos and visuals and graphics are all like like branded together so tightly so that when you see it, you know it's one of their videos. And, you know, if the music video is just like some guy who's like stalking the band and then the band just like kills them and puts them in a bag, you know, it's at least something to entice you versus just like people headbanging and
that's
rocking
like
out.
one of my favorite of just like simple with like an acting in a story is actually Evisceration Plague by Cannibal Corpse.
Oh, okay.
Just a simple like them rocking out zombie stuff. Just it was really well done for how simple and easy it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't easy, obviously. It's a high-quality music video, but the simplicity to the story was what I enjoyed so much about it, and that song rips. So
Yeah, and I think, like, even just overall, if there's, like, oh, well, music videos can only work for certain genres, like, to know that, you know, like, Ian from, like, Regional Justice Center is, like, a director, and he, like, does tons of music videos for, like, Angel Dust and all these other bands, like, you know, I'm sure that, you know, he's thought about, like, maybe a reason that RJC doesn't have, like, a music video is because maybe, I don't know, I'd be curious to ask him if he doesn't want to do it because of the genre of the music or because he's a director and he would want to have his hands too much in it. So that's
yeah, that'd be a one you'd have to ask. Yes,
Yeah.
It could really go either way.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't feel any genre is you shouldn't have this style of music video.
Yeah,
Like,
because
I
it's
mean,
essentially just packaging your music in a different way.
Like, I mean, if you want to be like a beat down metalcore band and do like a comedy music video, like, go for it.
Yeah.
Like, some of the funniest music videos I've watched are out of like heavy bands and different bands. Like 12 Foot Ninja has some hilarious videos for quite interesting music.
Yeah, that's even it's funny you said that because I even thought about, like, you know, a video can even get put up and you don't necessarily like the band or really fuck with their music as much, but I haven't listened to Norma Jean in like years, but I remember they put out a music video maybe like 5 years ago, but everyone's drinking like milk and then they're like throwing up onto each other. But I watched that music video over and over, and, you know, the music can be one thing, but it's like, man, the fact that you put together this video is like something else. So
that sounds hilarious. I don't think I've seen that one. Like, Norma Jean was one of the ones that kind of fell under my radar. Like, when I heard them, I was like, tight. But they were never one of the ones that I was super into. But I'm definitely going to have to check out that music video now.
Yeah, I'll send it to you for sure.
Easy.
So to keep things timely as far as, like, things that Plead's been up to, like, you guys kind of hit it really hard. I think when I'm trying to think, when we were shooting the music video, you were saying, oh yeah, our first show is going to be Wild Rose, and then you jumped on 2 shows before that.
Yeah, well, when we were shooting the music video, we didn't know where our first show was going to be.
Right.
We had just talked to the dudes that put on Wild Rose, and they were like, yeah, we'll probably be able to throw you on the pre-show.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, that's sick. Like, we don't have anything out. We've showed them the EP. They liked it. Playing Wild Rose. But that was, at that time, that was the only show we had, like, known that we were going to play.
Right.
And so with that, we had, we were contacted by Logan up in Edmonton that was like, come play a show in Edmonton with False Body and Stalagmites. And we were like, okay, so our first show's in Edmonton now, so whatever, like, let's do it. And within, I don't know, it was like a month out, or a month and a half out from that show, we got messaged and we were like, Serration and False Bloody need an opening band. Do you want to play your first show in a week? And we were like, all right, let's go change our Instagram post. First Edmonton show. First show is this day, because I mean, that, like, Serration and False Body are 2 bands that we really enjoy.
Right.
So we were like, yeah, that's a great first show. It's at Sloth Records, and you filmed that one.
Yeah, it was pretty funny, like, because we were shooting that video in January, and then it was February that you guys, like, put it out, and then you're like, okay, there's like 3 months before our first show, and then it got pushed back to so Wild Rose was in May, and then the Edmonton show was in April, and then it was like, hey, we have this other show in like a week in March, and then it was
right at the end of March, and we were like, okay,
yeah,
like, we're down for sure.
But I think that's super key for a new band, just to, like, really just make your footprint, especially like, even playing Calgary like 2 months in a 2-month time is like, that show and Wild Rose were totally different. So I think that was a smart move by you guys.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, both shows were fantastic. I mean, funny enough, our first 3 shows, those 2 Calgary shows and the Edmonton show, all had False Body on it with us.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so we played all 3 of our first shows with False Body.
That's too funny.
And then when we played, I think it was Falsifier, like more of a deathcore and Victims, but still a fun show that we would fit in.
Yeah.
Kind of reach outside the hardcore scene a little bit. We were just all kind of sitting there at the end being like, wow, we miss False Body. We haven't played a show without them. We're spreading our wings.
Funny. Yeah. Shout out to False Body.
Oh, absolutely. Those dudes are rad.
Insane band. I'm really hoping that I get to... I feel like, I was talking with Jordan, who's behind the camera, about this, but like, I think in each band, there's like at least 3 or 4 podcasts, and I think that's a for sure thing with False Body. Like, I want to do one with both of the Justins separately, and then one with Michelle, one with Lee. There's a lot of ground to cover with that band.
Yeah, and I think
all talented musicians.
I think that's a great idea. I'd like to watch those ones because, like, even talking to them after shows for our first 3 shows they were just easy to talk to. All of them, they were all super friendly.
Most humble people. Yeah, that's actually a really funny analogy to have them back to back. So shortly after that, you guys went on a summer tour and went out for like a good amount of time. Like you went for 2 weeks.
It was a fun
Do you want to talk a little bit about that and
it
the places you went?
Yeah, it was like right at the end of summer, last week of September into the first week of October. We had, with the music video and the power of the internet, it's a wonderful thing for bands.
Oh, yeah.
But also a terrible thing, but only if you're terrible people.
True.
But
so in that sense, a good thing.
Yes, exactly. And so with that, we were like, well, we have a lot of friends out there, and I had toured with another band that was, I joined for experience. I got what I needed. That's all. And so with that, I was able to use a lot of the connections I made, which was the reason for joining a metalcore pop band.
Yeah.
And with that, I used all those connections, and I was able to book us a 2-week tour out through BC, all the way to the island, and then back and down through Alberta. Within, I think it was, about 2 weeks total, about 8-9 shows. We had to cancel 2, unfortunately, but I mean, when you're booking a tour like that with no help or support and it's just you and your band working together, like having 2 bills drop is not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, such is life, especially on your first tour.
First tour. And we toured with the dudes from Kelowna in the band Ugly with a period. And it was a lot of fun. Those guys are also a wonderful band.
Is it official that they have a period in their name?
It's very official.
Oh, fuck. Okay. I got to change some stuff on the scope. Sorry, guys.
It's all capitals and a period.
Gotcha. Okay. I will update the folders.
Balin's going to be pissed.
Yeah. Fuck. How did you know those guys beforehand, or did you just know each other through Facebook and the internet worlds?
I did it with the help of Balin. He's the vocalist of Ugly. Me and him kind of worked a lot together. Quinn is his his brother. He does have a twin, but it's not Balin.
Yeah.
I believe so. I don't know. They're brothers in the end. I may be wrong again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
They're like pounding their computer screens watching this.
We're brothers.
Yeah. Get it right.
Or they're like, we're twins. And I'm like, fuck, there's too many of you
You're
guys.
related.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I had toured with the previous band with Quinn's other band, which is like one of those bands that does all their music based off of a theory or concept band. That's the word.
Okay,
sometimes you forget words. And they're like concept band metalcore. I mean, not really in the hardcore scene, but still a really good band. And so I had toured with that band, and he had brought up in a group chat that we're in that, well, Balin and us would probably be down to tour. So I messaged Balin and we set it up. And so I knew one member, and then by the end of the tour, I knew them all. So that's the best part about touring.
Yeah, all good good dudes. And you guys, which I thought was really cool when you told me about it, you went across the pond, like air quotes, and played a couple of shows on the island.
Yeah, we originally had 3. We wanted to play an all-ages show at Port Alberni, which is like a small place. Most people wouldn't think about going there, but the kids go crazy for shows there, surprisingly. So if anybody's ever looking for BC Island dates, don't leave those little towns out.
Right.
But that one unfortunately didn't work out, and we did play Victoria with Shallow End and Ugly.
Yep.
And so it was a really fun show. Like Shallow End killed it. That was that was a crazy show.
Love Shallow End.
Oh yeah, they were super rad, super friendly, and that show was probably one of the highlights of the whole tour. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people won't think that going over to the island is worth it, but it is 100% worth it.
Yeah, because there's a few adversities there as far as not only the distance, but having to pay to get onto the ferry because that's the only way to get over. Yeah. Did you do it legit when you were going to the ferry? Because I don't know if it was you or someone else where they were saying like, okay, well, everyone's just gonna lay down in the seats.
That's what a lot of bands do, but we did it legit.
Okay. Gotcha.
We actually played our show in Vancouver, which was a really fun one too. Mm-hmm. And then it was pretty much 1:30 in the morning, and we're like, fuck, are we going to stay at this place? And then we found out where the place was, and we were like, well, we bought an air mattress for the back of the van, and there's seats, so we actually just drove straight to the ferry terminal, slept, and pre-booked, and then we made it on first ferry in the morning.
Right.
And then did the same thing back.
And you guys were first in line, right?
Oh, yeah. First in... Or actually, no. From the Vancouver to Victoria, we were second or third in line.
Oh.
There was about 5 or 6 people that slept in the ferry terminal with us, like
That's
different
too funny.
cars.
Yeah.
But from Nanaimo to Vancouver, yeah, we were the only ones there the whole time.
I think you told me this, that like they were like banging on the glass.
Yeah. So
for you to wake up.
Yeah, every time in the morning there when they were ready to get everything going, yeah, they just each row had a guy go knock on windows, wake you up, and I swear they scared Lane almost to death. He was like, "Oh, go drive."
Yeah.
Watching it was hilarious.
Like pun intended, but I've taken the ferry a couple times, and it's a very tightly run ship as far as like.
Yes. But I love it. I love the ferry.
Get on, get off.
Exactly.
All right, doors closed. But yeah, the ferry's sick. If you've never ridden one, I'm trying to think of places that would have ferries. I guess like Seattle.
Yeah.
Or New York. But that's not what we're talking about. But I think that you guys doing that and playing those smaller places, that brought me back to when I first was getting into like DIY and hardcore music. And you could play like Winkler, Manitoba, and Altona, which are like tiny, tiny ass towns, and they're like 30 minutes apart from one another, but both had like thriving hardcore scenes.
Yeah, that's kind of like Lethbridge, where I came from.
Yeah.
Bigger than those places, but still.
Yeah. And earlier this week, his episode will probably be out before yours, where we did an episode with Cody, and we're talking about Wild Rose, and we're talking about the history of that fest. And it originally started in Lethbridge. So were you going to that fest when it was like
the Three Cities Connected show?
Yeah.
I was definitely at that.
Do you remember who played?
I want to say War Elephant was there. I can't remember. There was like, that was like the time frame of like War Elephant, Suicidal Cop, like it was after Messages via Carrier Pigeon or whatever. But it was a lot of like those bands, and I think E-Town Beatdown was like the headliner of that one.
Oh, okay. I think I saw a video like Sebulba played one year.
Oh, that was Sebulba. That was actually a different show.
Oh, it was just a different show, not at a fest.
Yeah, I think it was a tour of Sebulba, Alpha and Omega, and Power Trip.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Their van broke down. They missed Calgary. They missed Edmonton, but they played Lethbridge. So everyone from Alberta that wanted... This was Power Trip's like first time coming through, right on their come up. Sebulba was already sick. Alpha and Omega, like you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And then the Beautiful Ones played a secret show. So it was,
in Lethbridge?
Yeah, so it was at a small hall in Lethbridge. Jeez. Those 4 bands, everyone from Alberta had to come down to see that show. It was packed.
So much heat.
It was, yeah, I think the cops came in middle of the Zabalba set, and it was pretty hilarious, but they didn't shut down the show.
Yeah. Okay, now it's all coming together, because I remember Keenan, who was one of the first people that was putting on the Alberta Fest when it came back in 2016. I hit him up to film it. That was like that was like a huge like first step as far as like filming bigger shows outside of Winnipeg. But he posted a video on Facebook, and it was like it was like the Sebulba set that someone filmed in the back of a room with like a tiny little handy cam. But he had mentioned something about like yelling at the cops outside for like half of the set. That.
It was pretty funny. But yeah, now that it's coming through to me too, I do remember. Yeah, I think the first Wild Rose show was in Lethbridge, and it was with like Withdrawal. Withdrawal was like the big band on it. I don't remember the other bands, but I do remember that one being separate from the Three Cities Connected. And the Three Cities Connected, I feel, was like somewhat of like, it was a few years before it ever came back. So like the 3 years Connected happened, the Zabalba show happened like a little bit after, and then a year or two later is when it started back up.
That's so cool. And it was cool, like just like hearing the, I've seen a ton of different name changes for the fest, and it feels like it's solidified now. But the Three Cities has been always interesting to me, because it's like three like cities that are all kind of unified as far as the hardcore scene, and definitely so if like Calgary and Edmonton dates for a big bill like that, and everyone's like, well, I guess I gotta drive 2.5 hours to Lethbridge.
5 if you're from Edmonton.
5 if you're from Edmonton.
But I mean, for that bill and Power Trip coming through for the first time, it's worth it.
Oh, absolutely. Do you think that's kind of lost now with people traveling for shows? Like not as many people are down to just jump in a car and rip down and rip back.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Like a lot of these bands do hit up both cities. Like had they played Edmonton and Calgary, that show would not have happened. And the Three Cities Connected and the first Wild Rose Fest were kind of fests, so I understand the driving, but yeah, I don't think that would happen like modern day, especially with how bands hit cities up, because they're going to play your city. But definitely, like, there's some bands that come through and only play Edmonton, or they only play Calgary. I mean, bands don't really play Lethbridge anymore.
Exclusively.
Yeah, the venues there are difficult. It's not the scene's fault, it's the city's fault.
Right.
But yeah, no, driving, like, there was a few times that I definitely drove up to Edmonton for a show to see a band that even was playing Calgary, though. Like, I drove up with Curtis Left Hand once to go see Cruel Hand the night before they played in Calgary, because we were like, we're bored, we love this band, let's go.
Yeah.
That was a fun show. And then when Power Trip and Expire toured through, me, Cody, and Brennan Potts, and then Cody Oler from Lethbridge, we were like, we have nothing to do for this holiday weekend. So we actually followed them from Calgary to Red Deer to Edmonton and then to Lethbridge and just hung out and went to every show.
That's so cool.
So it was like the groupie tour.
Just bouncing around. I've actually like considered that, like, like the scoped anniversary shows is like one thing, but like eventually it'd be cool if we could bring a band to do the Western Canada run, Winnipeg to Vancouver, but we could like literally just be in a separate band and just, document that whole run.
That would be fun.
It would need, like, I think it would need to be a big enough band that each show would be sick, A, and B, it would need to be a band that would be down to just have these like people with cameras essentially just like hanging around.
Yeah, let me film you.
Yeah.
Come on, let me film you.
Maybe it could be doubled up, like, hey, we'll shoot like because I've seen some of those, like, I think before Expire broke up, they did like a DIY basement show run, and they filmed like a documentary around it.
Oh, tight.
And I really liked that. When that came out, I watched that. So maybe if there's a band that's listening that would be like hella down to do that, hit me up. But 2, if there's like, if you want to pair it with like a documentary thing, we could figure it out. I'm literally down to do really anything when it comes to
I would definitely like to see where you go with that, because I feel like that would come out really strong.
Yeah.
So hit up Spencer.
There's a bunch of ideas that I have with Scoped in like the 2020, like doing different kinds of content. I feel like I'm gonna say it just so it's like out in the world and maybe someone hears it and they think that would be sick. But I'm curious about like which festivals we hit next year of like vocalists who would be cool to like wear like a GoPro as like a POV cam.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'd
for
be
just
some.
a song.
I'm
for
sure,
just a song.
I'm sure there'd be some.
And just to have like, hey, like what's a fucking band? Like Power Trip, Soul Sacrifice, vocalist POV.
Just watch everybody just go insane and see what they see.
Or like
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, so that's a developing idea. It needs to be the right person. I feel like, if Wild Rose Hardcore Fest 2020 is going to have 25 bands, there's going to be 3 vocalists who are down to do that, and then maybe 1 actually does it. So we'll have to see. Because it also needs to be a band that has people just like going nuts.
Yeah, because you want to watch the crowd move. You want to see what this big band sees, and that's like the whole attraction to it. And I think that would be hilarious and great to watch.
Yeah. Want to jump back to PLEAD. So we kind of like, it was cool. Like I didn't think that we would be able to go literally from the back end to kind of where you guys are now. But maybe can you tease some of the things that you guys are working on right now as far as recordings, new music videos?
Yeah, right now we're kind of like posting what we can because we're trying really hard not to be the big things coming posts every week, and everyone's like, all right, so is it coming or not? But right now we are recording. We're like probably gonna finish it completely tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Nice.
Is to get it done, and then it's gonna go through mixing, and then we've got some like kind of cool things that we're going to be working on. Maybe some guest vocals on some songs.
Very cool.
And things like that. Like just the like little additions are what we're on right now.
The little spices.
Yeah, little spices. Yeah. Working on getting the release ready and just kind of deciding how we're going to do the promotion element of it all. And so it should be released sometime early 2020 with some cool little things. And a lot of stuff that we've been working on the last year and things, and it's going to be coming out as soon as possible. But right now, just a new EP, some other stuff, and maybe a few announcements for some shows and things like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. I'm very excited to hear it. We are working on something.
Yes.
I won't say anything more than that, but I've gotten to hear some snippets of one of the songs, and I feel like you guys are like hitting your arc as far as, okay, this is our demo but EP.
Yeah, that's what we've heard a lot because we've played a few of our shows. You can actually hear some of the new songs on the PLEAD Scoped sets that aren't released anywhere else. And basically we've gotten the same reaction from everybody. It's like, Hexed was good. Like, we liked it. It was fun. But you guys are really coming together with your sound and going to be dropping something that's significantly better. Yeah. That really is PLEAD versus Hexed, which is like, that's a good new band EP. Like, I like this. This is good. Yeah. Like, I mean, if anybody loved Hexed and was like, this is one of the best things I've ever heard, I'm not trying to take anything away from it. And I greatly appreciate your opinion and that you enjoy it. But I do believe that this new EP is going to be way stronger. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I think it's that thing where it's like, oh, I'm happy that there's more people in my scene doing stuff. And then like, you had the songs that you guys played, and then when you were starting to introduce the new stuff, like I think the first time I heard some of the newer material was at the Wild Rose pre-show.
Yeah, we released and 2 for
John played that like riff, and I was like okay.
He is the riff boy.
Moves.
He is the riff boy. Yeah. That's kind of our writing style. I'll write a song, do some riffs, and then John will just come in and put his like spices all over it and just make it that much more spicy.
Yeah, very cool. I'm just pulling up my notes.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you think we're doing? Am I interviewing you well?
I'd say solid 8 out of 8. It's going well.
Oh, 8 out of 8. Wow. Feels so special.
You should.
I'm really trying not to have any dead air. But I also, like I said at the beginning, I'm feeling a little off.
I mean, honestly, if you wouldn't have told me that at the beginning, I wouldn't have been able to tell. But definitely, I mean, I'm looking at Jordan over there. He's definitely giving lots of dead air.
Yeah, eventually we want to get an AV cam and just have Jordan be able to do
just
stuff.
like when you're watching like the Howard Stern show, where it like cuts to the guys in the back that are talking, and you're like, oh, that's who that is.
Exactly.
And we can show who Jordan is.
Yeah. So the one thing I wanted to ask is, you're pretty into anime.
Correct. I didn't wear a weeb shirt today.
Yeah.
Thought about it though. I'm not gonna lie.
You're like,
pardon?
Do you have a keychain?
It's on my car keys in my pocket.
Let's bring it in.
Yes. It's in. Yeah.
Okay.
On the car keys.
This is getting.
It's not on the house keys.
This is getting very meta.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Here we go.
There you go. See?
Nice.
Yes.
Who is that?
It's Toka.
Toka.
Yep. From Data Live.
Gotcha.
The only harem I'll ever watch.
Nice.
Anybody that watches it will know what that means.
No, the reason I ask is I think anime's like been this, I think like this subculture where it's like always had like a core amount of fans, but I'm finding more and more people in hardcore are like.
Yeah, this is actually like
and really fuck with
something I've had this conversation with quite a few times. Like I've watched for a long time, and so when I was younger, I watched it, and then getting into like middle school, high school, it was like, that's weird and frowned upon. So rather than just like owning up to what I like and being like, yeah, I like anime and stuff, it was like, I don't watch that stuff. Like, I don't like it. And so I took a long break from it. And then recently with like this whole kind of like branding and companies that do like these one-ofs and like the hype beast clothes, they kind of incorporated some of it, like some of the cooler stuff, like the Akira Supreme crossover and stuff.
Yep.
And so with that, it kind of opened up that like, oh, like maybe anime is not that bad. And so I think with like just how times have changed, it's become kind of like this whole, it's kind of like the kid that wore Blackcraft when nobody knew what Blackcraft was.
Sure. Yeah,
like it's edgy, it's dark, it's different. And so now it was like anime was so frowned upon, but now it's like, but I wear it as a fashion statement that it's like, you know, people look at it and you're like, oh, like, this guy's a weeb anime neckbeard that doesn't leave his bedroom, but it's not. It's like now used as like a thing of fashion.
Yeah. No, that's super. I would have never actually thought about like people getting into it because it's like, it's tied with fashion in that way.
Yeah, and like I follow a lot of clothing companies that kind of do that and do their own thing, and it's really cool to watch like how all of this unfolds and how they do their like one of drops where like they'll do a shirt and then never release it again, kind of like the whole hype beast thing. But
yeah,
there's a lot of really good clothes companies that drop cool anime shirts, and then with that, and you see it more, it definitely became like more acceptable to watch. And it was like if you didn't have a Crunchyroll account, it was like you didn't have Netflix, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. And I'm just even thinking on the musical aspect, like lots of like I'm sure you've seen the meme where it's like anime intro and then anime outro, and it's like
absolutely
the intro is like something super insane and then the outro is something like looking off into a field.
Yeah, I just feel like with it in hardcore is a lot of those people that rock it now watched it when they were younger, and now that it's more of like accepted, it's like, oh cool, I can wear what I want and show that I like this show without being frowned upon, and that's another reason why it's become so popular.
Do you think that there needs to be a line with like true Japanese anime and then like American anime?
Well, that's
or
kind of,
does that fall under the same umbrella?
Well, that kind of falls under the difference between weeaboo and otaku, where like otaku is just a fan of anime.
Sure.
And like, I don't find a problem with like Korean or Chinese or North American animes as long as they're good.
Right.
Versus the whole, if it's not Japanese, it's not anime, which is more of like the weeb side of it. Like only Japanese culture versus all of anime culture.
Yeah.
But I find if it's good, I like it. I don't really care where it's made.
Yeah. Are you a fan of watching the dubbed or the original?
honestly,
Or does it? I'm curious. Does that depend
it's
on the show?
dub versus sub battle, and
Right.
it's infamous. When it comes to dub versus sub, if I'm doing any graphic design or photo stuff or working on my computer, I'll play dub on my like other monitor so that I
Right.
have background noise. I can kind of watch the show and pay attention. I'm not reading subtitles the whole time when I should be
Yeah.
editing a show poster.
Sure. Yeah.
But I find back like a few 5-6 years ago, there weren't like much good dubs, hence the whole battle of dub versus sub.
Right.
But with how popular anime's become recently, the dubs have become significantly better.
Right.
And I know that I'm going to piss off a lot of people by saying that, but honestly,
We've lost so many listeners.
yeah, the dub quality has gone up. I still watch in subs. I haven't gone full learn Japanese, so I don't need either. But
Right. No, I'm like I watch very little anime, at least like right now. But if I was, I would be doing the same. I'd be doing it dubbed, and then because even when I'm watching Netflix at home, like I'm like editing stuff for Scoped, or I'm doing whatever. Like I want to be able to not just be like so like fixated on like, okay, I need to read this entire word before this person's done talking and it's on to the next thing.
yeah, like the original.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I totally get if you're like, oh, but the voice acting is so different.
Well, that's the
and
thing. It's like
yada, yada.
the original voice acting is always better. Like it is always better, but like I said, dubbing they've upped their game because they have to. There's
Sure.
companies that do better dubbing. And so if you just do a whole, oh no, he's running away versus like actually throwing in some emotion, you're not going to get hired. So like they have to be better. And
Sure,
that's why
yeah.
dubbing has improved.
Do you have any favorite shows that you're watching right now, or like all time shows?
Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah.
All time, my favorite is Brotherhood. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood has to be my all-time favorite. I've got Alphonse tattooed on my leg. Like he's the boy. He is the boy. But he's honestly, that show is so good. And then I have to say, like, the typical Evangelion is like, the best anime ever made. I think it's great. I really like it. I've always loved it. My favorite movie of all time is Akira and Princess Mononoke, those two. But right now I slept on it, and I'm finally watching Rising of the Shield Hero.
Cool.
And yeah, and I just showed my girlfriend Future Diary because that is my other all-time favorite.
Yeah. I feel like I should ask Jordan because I feel like you could say some things.
I already read.
Wait. I'll give you the mic and you could talk. No dead air, remember?
It's really funny that you say you just got into Shield Hero because before the anime came out, I read the manga and the entirety
I
of the
heard the manga
novels.
was really good.
I read the wrong novels though. I read the web novels, not the light novels.
Oh.
So now I have to retry the entire 16 books, 17 books.
At least it's the lights, though. A little bit quicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
also-
definitely the least anime experienced person in the room here, so.
Yeah, I like all styles, like slice of life,
Yeah.
the sci-fi and fantasy one. Like I just watched Chinibyo, and that one I felt was really good.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite, because I feel like I could relate more on this topic, but like American animes that you either grew up with? Or do you feel like some of those are like, they don't hold up as far as
It's I just kind of like
things go?
watch. I don't really pay attention what they're from or what they are. So like when you ask like which American anime I watch or you like the best, I'd be like, I don't know. I just like these animes.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to delegate it for the people who are watching who are
Yeah.
like very like passionate about anime. So
Oh,
when I
there's
say
gonna be
like,
a few that
I
are
love
ripping out their hair to
Metabots,
me.
and then they're like,
As much as I prefer like the Japanese and like Korean stuff, I'm never gonna be upset if somebody's like, I like this one.
Yeah.
But I'm just sick of hearing Cory in the House is the best anime. Like that meme's dead.
I've never heard that one actually.
Good.
Good.
It's dead.
Yeah, it's dead. Let's keep it in the grave. You guys were actually gonna do a weeaboo or an anime inspired piece of merch.
We made it into stickers and we had it with us on tour.
You did. Yeah.
You can buy them online. We actually just opened up a merch store.
Oh.
Online one.
Good plug.
I know.
What's the URL?
It's PLEAD HC bigcartel.com.
Yeah.
And so we finally, like, we'd been getting Instagram messages like, when are you going to sell stuff online? So we were like, here you go.
We have to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, you
I'm
do.
hoping that I can do stuff. I have a week off of work, so literally that's going to be Bryn's at work, and I can just edit sets and work
Nice.
on other things that have fallen behind.
But
or
yeah.
been on the back burner.
Yeah, no, we, I guess this is our one sort of not local thing that we got done was the artwork for that.
Oh, sure.
Because the artist that we got to do it was Jenny. She is one of my friends that I met playing video games, which is hilarious that I'm good friends with Bryce. It's his girlfriend, and she's here all the time, but she's from New York.
Bryce from Trench?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No,
sorry.
you not even.
I won't even know.
Not even the
Okay,
hardcore
sorry.
scene. Gamer nerd friend.
Gotcha.
We met playing Counter-Strike. Like I said, I got the Counter-Strike headshot on my wrist.
Yes.
Play a lot of games.
Mhm.
But I met his girlfriend through hanging out with him when she was here, and so she was here all the time. And she's like, I draw anime stuff for commission. And I was like, cool, can you draw us something? And I was like, hey, can you quote us for a price? She's like, I'm done it. I was like, I just wanted a price.
Yeah.
But it was a really good price. So we were like, yeah, we'll use this for something.
Sick. What's her handle in case someone wants to check that out?
Jenny Chosen.
At Jenny Chosen?
Yeah, at Jenny Chosen, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, you I'm sure she's got a big enough following that you could spell Jenny Cho and then find it.
Yeah,
from there.
Yeah, because she just does like commission anime stuff and does the Twitch streaming and all that fun stuff. Well, when she does, I bug her all the time because she
Right.
doesn't.
You do a bit of that as well, doing some streaming.
Yeah, I Twitch stream
Yeah.
a couple times a week.
Is Counter-Strike your jam?
I've actually been taking a break from Counter-Strike just because, you just kind of plateau and you need to take a break from a game.
Sure.
I'll always love that game, but yeah, right now I'm on a break. I've been playing a lot of the new COD because I like it. A lot of people don't, but I like it.
Yeah.
New COD.
Is it still like I'm a little out of that world, like as far as the information wise, but is it still like kind of like futuristic,
No.
or did they dial it back?
No, they dialed it back.
Okay, cool.
It's modern warfare, so it's
Oh,
modern,
okay,
boots
gotcha.
on the ground. You can slide, but you can't jump all crazy, which I hated.
No jetpacks or like
No.
crazy parkouring.
Yeah, and then I do a little bit of Overwatch and a little bit of like Battlefront, Star
Yeah.
Wars. I just play first-person shooters and hang out.
Yeah, first person shooters. That was like that seems to be all in the same wheelhouse. I've actually wanted to pick up. I bought the first new Battlefront, and I have like little to no time to play video games, but I'm trying to at least give myself a little bit more next year. But I have a very addictive personality, so like
Same.
when I'm like I'm gonna play for an hour, and then 4 hours goes by, and that can be very detrimental, especially when you're trying to run a giant multi-function project.
Oh, I know that. When I calculated my combined hours on Counter-Strike Global Offensive, it's over 5,600 hours.
Over how many years do you think?
Oh, it came out in 2013, so yeah,
That's insane.
that's a lot of hours. I mean, I was playing like the highest level you could get though.
Sure,
Before professional, before I fell off.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I definitely want, like, I bought the first Battlefront. Sorry, just to finish my
Yeah,
thought.
no, go ahead.
So I bought the first Battlefront. It was it was cool, and then the second one came out, and then it got like a lot of heat online as far as
Because
EA's
of the pay to win. Yeah.
transactions. But I have watched a lot of videos where people are talking like how they've almost like redeemed that game.
Yeah, I am one of those people that agree with that. It
Yeah.
is 100% worth buying, especially on sale right now or whatever, because they do their winter sales.
True. Yeah.
It is like you only get looks and emotes and stuff out of the loot boxes, and it's actually like a quality game with added maps and added stuff. It's a lot of fun. I still
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking if money if I have too much downtime about just maybe grabbing that, and then I can. It's more so I just want to play Darth Maul and just flip over people with a double-sided lightsaber.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Darth Maul is one of the better characters for sure.
Do you have a hero that you constantly try to play on that game?
Yeah, I usually try to play Rey, Anakin,
Rey, okay, that's interesting.
and Bosk.
Oh yeah. I've heard like Anakin is like so OP.
He was very strong. They kind of nerfed him a bit, but he's
Sure.
still like really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I follow this one YouTuber, and he has a bunch of playthroughs of that game. And there's some pretty broken aspects with some characters and map combinations.
Oh yeah, you can definitely destroy people, like jumping up as Palpatine and just shooting lightning down in the air where nobody can get you.
Well, I think, what is it? I'm trying to remember the hero. I think it's Darth, or villain or whatever. I think Darth Vader can like pick people up, and it's on the Bespin map, and you could just pick them up and then just move them over, and then they just fall to their death.
Oh, well, I haven't seen that one, but that sounds hilarious and
Yeah.
something that I would definitely try.
Yeah. The rest of Plead is actually a pretty. Well, Marcus specifically is a big gamer.
Yeah, he's
Do
he's
the rest
a
of the
gamer.
guys?
John's gaming is 20 minutes on Crash Bandicoot or dying 100 times in Battlefront and being like, I don't know what I'm doing, and then shutting it off.
Right.
He likes to watch the movies and hang out with his dog.
Yeah.
Lane, he's I'd say John's the least gamer. Lane likes to like casually play, not try too hard, but he
Yeah.
plays and hangs out and likes like COD, and he's more of a single player guy. Definitely
sure.
likes to just chill out at home, plays single player
Play a
games.
campaign.
Yeah, and then he bounces on to the multiplayer too.
Yeah.
And then Marcus is kind of like the mix of me and Lane, where he'll like be pretty intense in multiplayer, but also like grind out the Dark Souls games because he loves that shit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen, because we're pretty close, so I'd seen him like post about like, hey, I'm gonna pick up Dark Standing. Is it good? And then all his gamer friends were chatting about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, it's really too bad because like video production and editing, if it weren't for like games like Halo and things like Red versus Blue, like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So
True, back in the machinima days.
yeah, I had a machinima clan that I ran at like 15 years old. I like would hit people up online and be like, hey, we're making a war movie. You guys are the cadets, and then you're the sergeant. So you need different like. Thinking about it, like thinking back on it, it's actually pretty fucked that I like went full director mode at such a young age.
Well, you just knew what you wanted to do then.
I guess
But
so.
No, that shit was always fun. Like, yeah, and all the things you could do in those games to make videos and play outside of the realm of the game was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we started on Halo 2 and then moved over when Halo 3 had Forge. It's like I could just make my
That
own
was the best.
sets. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The one thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up was you got a couple cars.
Yeah,
That are your babies.
I'm a Volkswagen nerd.
Yeah.
I've been a Volkswagen nerd since my first car when I was given a 1991 Volkswagen Jetta turbo diesel. Not even TDI, just turbo diesel.
Oh yeah, it was like before, I guess, when they abbreviated it.
Yeah, and so it was just a beater, and I loved the shit out of that car.
Mm-hmm.
And then through being like, well, all these custom cars and stuff, like, is there a scene for Volkswagen? So I started going to the internet and seeing what people did to Mark IIs and Mark IIIs, and that was kind of like when Mark Vs were not out yet, because I had been driving for a while when Mark Vs were released.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on Mark 7s now, so it was a while ago.
Yeah. Do you roll with newer Volkswagen stuff, or you're like, I just like the older stuff?
I appreciate and really enjoy newer Volkswagen stuff.
Yeah.
I just can't afford it. So not anything I could do anytime soon, but like there's some really nice new Volkswagens out there. And another Volkswagen nerd that I talked to and we've nerded out over it is Jake from Serration there. He's a big Volkswagen guy too. So
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah.
so me and
I've
him
seen
always kind of have a new different Volkswagen every once in a while. And right now I currently have two. I have a 2004 Mark IV GLI 1.8T that I am planning to slam, put new rims on, do all that stuff. And then I have a 1983 Mark I that's already slammed and just no wiper blades, simple. It's a car show. It's not like it's a show car, not a daily driver.
Right.
But
Can you explain what slam means? Because I have no idea what
it's lowered with from the oil pan. I only have 1.25 inches of
Oh, okay.
distance from the ground.
Yeah.
So I have it, lowered as low as I can get it.
Has that fucked you on occasion?
You learn how to drive it, but speed bumps are my enemy.
That's fair. So with with all of that with the cars, is that like you're only driving those like in the summertime?
I drive my Mark IV all year.
Oh, okay.
It's got winter tires on it. I just get adjustable coilovers so I can lower it, raise it. And but the Mark I, it doesn't have windshield wipers. It's street legal.
Yeah.
So I drive that in the summer when there's no rain or anything and it's clear and everything. But yeah, the Mark I's a cruiser. Bring it to car shows. Still needs some work, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And then the Mark IV is my nice daily driver.
How big are those car shows? Like, are they like, because ironically, like one of the very first jobs I had, I worked at a Wendy's, and it was always when I had a Sunday shift. This is like back in like 2006 or 2005 or something. But if I had a Sunday shift, there was always like cruise night, and everyone would bring out their cars because it was like our Wendy's and then Safeway, and that whole parking lot was just like dead. And then 7 o'clock hit, and it was packed.
There's a few things like that here in Calgary.
Yeah.
There used to be, like before everybody tried to shut it down, there was the Tim Hortons on Barlow in Calgary here, and every Saturday people would pull their cars in, and it would fill an entire Staples parking lot plus some. There's a group in Calgary which like Euro drivers, and they do different things and stuff, and their shows are usually pretty big. And then the really big shows are like the one at the BMO, which is, those cars are too nice for my car. And that's like the indoor, like $1 million cars, the $100,000 cars.
Pay to get into that.
And you pay to get into that, and that's World of Wheels, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Do you go to that every year?
I try to. I used to be in a car club in Lethbridge called Street Wheelers, and we would bring chosen cars and rent one of the spots, the squares, for our car club to advertise Street Machine Weekend in Lethbridge and stuff. And so I would go and help and set everything up and just hang out for a weekend. And so I would get in for free, but now that I live in Calgary, I usually just go through them and get tickets through friends. So
right, that's cool. Well, we're getting at that time where we should probably plan on wrapping things up. But
yeah, for sure.
This whole conversation has been great.
Yeah.
I feel like there's been no pressure, at least on me. So I've been okay to just like...
I haven't been trying hard enough then.
That's fair. So since you know how we wrap up these shows, I like to do like a favorite hardcore story or mosh moment. And I feel like there could be a deep cut somewhere in the Lethbridge hardcore scene, or even something more recent that happened on the tour here.
That's hard. There's been a lot. I'd say one of my favorite stories was probably traveling through Alberta just to hang out with, like, from not being in a band thing, but like hanging out with those guys in Expire and Backtrack back in the day, and with the friends that we were with, hitting all the cities up. And then the last show was the time that I broke my wrist, because it was Comeback Kid too. That was the third band. It was Comeback Kid, Expire, and Backtrack.
Oh, okay.
And that's why we followed. And then, on the last show in Lethbridge, it was at a nightclub that didn't really have hardcore shows.
Sure.
And so breaking my wrist at that last show was just like cool. Did everything, even broke a bone. It wasn't a bad break, but it was definitely fun. And then there's just been tons of shows, but I think most recently my just touring and the whole experience with PLEAD and all of that, just like growing the band and playing shows and touring and being band dad manager kind of thing, has really just been a huge experience in a hardcore scene, and it's just been one of my favorites, and it's just began.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see where it takes you guys, especially into this next year. What are your plugs as far as how people can keep up with you and PLEAD?
If you want to check out PLEAD, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/PLEADHC. Same on Instagram. It's at PLEADHC.
Yep.
We have Twitter, which we're trying to get better at. And by that, I mean we post Baby Yoda memes, and that's about it.
So if you're into that,
that's Marcus speaking, because I think they're hilarious. But we post other stuff too, and we're trying to be more active on there. But it's the same, at PLEADHC.
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp, yeah. At
Plead
Plead HC, because there's other pleads with periods and stuff in the way. But
Yeah.
so we are. Everything's pretty much at Plead HC. Same with the Big Cartel for our online merch, and you can find us at Spotify if you just search up Plead or Plead in our EP Hexed. We've been getting pretty good listens, and you can check us out on there. We're on all the other streaming services
Apple
too.
Music,
Yeah.
Google Play, cool. And new music next year.
Yeah, so if you want to check that out and you want to watch out for that, definitely hit up the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, because, like I said, we're trying to get better. So follow us on one of those or all of them, whichever you decide, and definitely keep an eye out, because we will be posting updates as we go, getting closer.
Yeah, and definitely support these guys. They're a band that's really, I think, there was a long time where there wasn't a lot of Calgary hardcore new faces coming to the scene, so I feel like you guys coming earlier this year like inspired me to get a band going and got some other people going, and
which is a great band. And then the other new kids on the block, like Set Straight, they're so good.
Yes, shout out Set Straight, shout out Fuse, shout out Endgame, shout out Mortality Rate, shout out Serrations, shout out all the Calgary homies, shout out Trench, shout out Plead. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anyone.
I know, and then we're gonna get a comment being like,
shout out Snake Pit.
Yeah, that's
the Metal
Mutants. Left
Mutants.
them out.
Yeah. Oof.
Yikes.
But go support Plead and all those bands. But I'm really excited to see what you guys put out next year.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes over.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and go listen to Hexed.
Peace.
Peace.